भन्दै ठिक रहेछ क्लास लिन।
हजुरले फर्स्ट डे तल गर्नुभयो नि सेकेन्ड डेमा सबै रुम आएको
कसरी राख्दै होला तपाईँले? Good morning. Good morning, dear students. All of you hear me? Anyone please give response? Can I start? So in the last class we have discussed about the anatomy of the eyeball. So we have discussed about the anterior segment and the posterior segment and structures situated in the anterior segment and posterior segment. So today we will be discussing about the embryology of the eye. So for the reminder, let's recall the last class. The anterior transparent, this is a transparent structure, is the cornea. Then the space, this is the anterior chamber. Then this is a diaphragm, diaphragmatic structure with the central aperture. The central aperture is the pupil and this diaphragmatic structure is the iris, which is the structure of the evial tract. Then this is the lens which is suspended by the zonules, and this space is a vitreous. Then behind that, this is a ciliary body, this is a choroid, retina, optic nerve, and outer opaque structure is the sclera. So we have the three coats of the eyeball. So fibrous coat, vascular coat, and retinal coat. So which we have discussed in last class. So what is the objective of studying this embryology? So all of you have studied in first year and second year, but still we will revise something. So to understand the structure and development of the eye and to understand the major congenital anomalies. So coming back from where it is the eyeball started, little bit revision about this brain. So brain, it is a complex organ that acts as a control center of the body. So as a component of central nervous system, it receives, processes and directs the sensory information. So brain is split into right and left hemisphere by some band fibers called the corpus callosum. And there are three major divisions performing the specific function. So these are prosencephalon, midbrain mesencephalon, and hindbrain is thromboncephalon. So it's developed from forebrain. So we will discuss a little bit about the forebrain. The forebrain is by far which is the largest brain division, and it includes the cerebrum, which account for about 2/3 of the brain mass and covers most of the other brain structure. So it is again subdivided into telencephalon and diencephalon. So olfactory and optic cranial nerves are found in this forebrain, so as well as lateral and third central ventricles. So we are concerned with our thing. In the telencephalon, the major component of telencephalon is the cerebral cortex, which is further divided into 4 lobes. among which occipital lobe, which is responsible for receiving and processing the visual information from the retina. So this is the figure where the forebrain is situated and the eyeball is developed from forebrain. So development of the eyeball, first of all, grossly we have divides its different derivatives from the different structures. So which is one or two questions may come from for the MCQ, but you don't have MCQ pattern, but further you may need, and sometimes it is required as a lens development. These are required for your SAQ also. So the major development of the eye takes place between the week 3 to week 10. And eye and orbital tissues develop from ectoderm, mesoderm, and neural crest cells. So what are its derivatives of these embryonic tissues? We will discuss. So ectoderm is again the neuroectoderm and surface ectoderm. From the neuroectoderm, the neuro you can think or you can remember in that way. The neuro itself will give the nerves. So neurosensory retina, optic nerve, axons, and retinal pigment epithelium. These develops from neuroectoderm. And from surface ectoderm, which is the surface, so you can remember the conjunctival epithelium, epithelium glands, cilia of the skin of eyelids, caruncle, lacrimal drainage system, lacrimal gland, lens, and a part of vitreous. So these develop from surface ectoderm. The things developed from the neural crest cells are bones, which is the midline and inferior orbital bones, part of orbital roof, lateral rim, cartilage, chondroidal stroma, ciliary ganglia, corneal stroma and endothelium, extraocular muscle sheath and tendon, extra iris pigment epithelium, melanocytes, trabeculum meswork, meningeal sheath of optic nerve, Schwann cells of ciliary nerves, fat, sclera, and vasculatures. So from the mesoderm, the structure develops are extraocular muscle fibers, fat, iris splinter and dilator muscles, iris stroma, sclera, vascular endothelium, and vitreous. So coming here, you will see in the picture, by the 22 days of conception, the pairs of shallow groove in the side of the forebrain. So there is a little bit of groove over here in the both side of this forebrain, and by the 22 days this groove is formed, and by 27 days the optic vesicle, it is just a hollow area, the hollow ball of neural ectoderm is connected to the brain, and the third ventricle through this hollow reaches the surface ectoderm and includes the formation of lens placoid, and which is nothing but the thickened area at this is the surface ectoderm, the thickened area, this is called the lens placoid. When this group is enlarged and it forms a hollow area, it forms a vesicle. So optic vesicles, this is the dilated ends of diverculum, invaginates, shrink below the surface ectoderm to form the double layer optic cup, and the lens placoid where it forms the lens vesicle. Again, from this thickened area, the lens placoid gradually it invaginates inwards, and over here the lens vesicle also forms. So in these pictures also you can see this is optic vesicles, and gradually see the optic vesicles, optic stalk, and this invaginate from this area, it forms a lens vesicle. So as the optic cup forms, two processes takes place. The surface ectoderms begin to invaginate to form the lens, and the area between the cup and the surface ectoderm fills with the ectomesenchymal that will form much of the anterior segment of the eye. So the space between the surface ectoderm and this space, it forms a most of, in this space there forms a most of the ocular structures are formed through this space. And the invaginations of the optic cup occurs asymmetrically with the ventral choroidal fissures that facilitate the entry of mesoderm and neural crystals and allows the hyaline artery to reach the inner chamber of the eye. So over here you can see in this picture this hyaline artery, gradually it reaches the inner side of the eyeball. So the fissure closes at its central first. So there is a first the closure at this central, then it anteriorly and posteriorly. So its closure time is at the 7th week. So if there is delay in the closure or absence of the closure, then it will lead to some congenital abnormal conditions like coloboma. So it's a defect. So it can be in the lid, in the ciliary choroids, it can be in the iris, or it can be in the lens. So the mouth of the optic cup becomes round, opening the future pupil. So this the optic cup opening, so that it becomes a round and it's a central aperture that is a pupil. So lens and anterior segment formation. So begins with the proliferations of the surface ectoderm cells to form a lens placode. So we have seen the thickened area at the surface ectoderm is the lens placode, and followed by inward invaginations of the plate to form a lens pit. As the pit deepens, it closes anteriorly and detaches from the surface to form a lens vesicle. And a lens vesicle is the single layer structure composed of cuboidal cells surrounding the large lumen, and it sits within the optic cup. So you can see in this picture, so this is a lens placode, and the lens pit is formed, means a little bit of deepened area. Then again it is gradually it is invaginated a deeper group and it forms a vesicle. And from this it's just a simple layer of the cuboidal cells, and the surface corneal epithelium it's developed from this, and the anterior wall the single layer of the cuboidal epithelium, and from the posterior wall see it increases in length, it elongates, and they forms the elongated lens fibers and projects into the lumen of vesicles. And the and this nuclear bow, nuclei of the lens fibers, which moves anteriorly to form the convex line. So this is how the stages of the lens, the development of the lens. So you remember the lens placode, pit, lens vesicle, optic vesicles, then the structure form. The anterior cells remain cuboidal and single layer continue to form the new lens fibers throughout the life, leading to the lenticular thickening observed with age. So it is only the structures in the eye, lens is only the structure in the eye which do not exfoliate its older or its lens fibers are contained to the outside environment. It's put inside. All the lens fibers are put inside, whereas there is a continuous growth of the newer lens fibers, and gradually the lens become thickened with age. So the weight of the lens it increases when it's a young child, then gradually at the age of the 85 its weight increases to about 2 to 3 times. So rest of the lens epithelium cells become elongated and their proliferation fills the lens vesicle, and these lens forms the primary lens fibers that eventually form the embryonal nuclei, and the remaining outer cells from the true basement membrane known as the lens capsule. So this is how the lens is formed. So listen please. So anterior lens remains, these are the anterior cells, they remain cuboidal and they form the single layer of the cells like this in this picture, single layer of the cell. Then rest of the lens epithelium cells, they elongate and their proliferation fills the lens vesicle. So this elongated cells, what become this posterior layer of the cells, this becomes elongated and this vesicle is gradually become small. This space is filled. And these cells form the primary lens fibers that eventually form the embryonal nucleus. So they forms the nucleus and the remaining outer cells from the two basement membrane known as the lens capsule. So they form the lens capsule. So this development of the lens is very important and it is a transparent and thickest at its equator and thinnest at the posterior pole. So lens is like that type of structure which is more thinnest part is at the posterior pole. So it has got some clinical significance. During the cataract surgery, we have to be more careful at the posterior pole is more thinnest. So composed of typhocollagens and glycosaminoglycans and the zonule of the lens form as a part of vitreous ancillary body with mostly ectomesenchymal contributions. So this we have discussed in last class, the poles, anterior pole of the lens and posterior pole of the lens. So development of the cornea from both the surface ectoderm, which is the corneal epithelium, and the neural crest derivatives, ectomesenchymal cells, that is the stroma and endothelium. Substantia propria or stroma is continuous with the sclera, and the corneal stroma consists of the collagen fibers that are arranged in an optically optimal lattice formation. So endothelial layer which bordered the anterior chamber. So this is important because of this lattice arrangement of the collagen fibers of the cornea which maintains the corneal transparency. So if there is any dearrange in this arrangement for following the trauma or any sorts of corneal edema will make the cornea hazy and the light will not be able to pass through it, so that there will be, we will not be able to see clearly. And also the clinical importance is that the continuations of the stroma with the sclera. So the very disease of the sclera, if there is, then there is a chance of keratitis. Or if there is a conjunctival disease which is continuous with the epithelium, then that also can lead to the keratitis. So it is it's seen developmentally. Bowman's condensed. So these are the different layers of the cornea which we will discuss when we will go through the detail of cornea. So Bowman's membrane, condensed layer of the collagen serves as the basement membrane for the corneal epithelial cells, and basement membrane is the basement membrane of the corneal endothelial cells, and the endothelial cells appears to be derived from the neural crest cells, but after development they do not regenerate. So this is a endothelial cell, just they grow in size. The size is increased, but they do not again regenerate. Whereas the epithelial cells, they regenerate. So it is trauma in case of the epithelium, we can have a clear zone, but after 24 hours or if something later. And if there is any trauma in the endothelium cells, thus by increasing the size, it try to compensate the gap, but still there is a hedginess in the cornea. So it is a very rich in mitochondria and expends significant energy moving water out of the cornea to maintain the corneal transparency. So these have also their own properties to maintain the corneal transparency. So we will discuss again in physiology of cornea. So anterior chamber from the vascularizations and split the mesenchyme into the inner layer in front of the lens, and ID is the iridopupillary membrane, and the outer layer continues with the sclera, the substantia propria of the cornea, And the anterior chamber itself is lined by the flattened mesenchymal cells, and later the iridopupillary membrane in front of the lens disappear completely, providing the communications between the anterior and posterior eye chamber. So there is a gap between the iris and the posterior part of the iris, so that what happens, the aqueous, it moves from the anterior chamber to the posterior chamber, so that there is the maintenance of the pressure. So any type of pressure is increase in the anterior chamber or in the posterior chamber will leads to glaucoma as a result of increase in intraocular pressure. So this is a transparent cornea which you can see with the help of the slit lamp. Just the shadow is seen over here. So choroid, ciliary body and iris, so develop from the neural ectoderm, mesoderm and the neural crystals. So the neural crest contributes the pigmented and epithelial component of uvea, and muscles of the sphincter and iris dilator are likely of mesodermal origin. And the mesoderm also contributes a non-pigmented part of uvea, iris stroma and the ciliary muscles. Choroid and sclera. So at the end of the 5th week, the eye primordium is completely surrounded by the loose mesenchyma, and this tissue soon differentiate into inner and outer layer. So these are the undifferentiated mesenchyma. So coming to the inner layer, so which is comparable with the diameter of the brain, which forms a highly vascularized pigmented layer known as choroid. So we know the uveal tissue, it is a very vascular layer structures, and in that the choroid is more vascular. So you see, which is compared with the diameter of the brain. So this is the inner layer. And the outer layer comparable with the durameter, which develops into the sclera, and it is continuous with the durameter around the optic nerve. So it develops into the sclera and it's continuous with the durameter. So this outer opaque layer is the sclera. So it is also important because any sorts of infections in this type can also continues towards it. So this is also very important. Retina and the posterior segment forms as a two overlapping layers. Pigmented layer from the outer surface of the optic cup, which is a single columnar layer with pigment granules in its cytoplasm by 6 weeks. And neural retina from the inner surface of the optic cup starts by 7 days, continues until 7 months. So it has got a pigmented layer from the outer surface of the optic cup. Now you go back to the first 4-5 slides where you have seen the optic cup round. So from that optic cup, the outer surface of the optic cup, one single columnar layer with the pigmented granules. And again, the neural retina from the inner surface of that optic cup. So outer cup of the optic cup, outer layer, pigmented layer, and the inner surface, it forms a neural retina. So anterior 1/5 of the inner layer, the layer of the columnar cell, doesn't differentiate into the nervous tissue and divides into parts pars piccata retina from the inner layer and pars ciliaris retinae, which is the formation of ciliary body. So again, from that inner layer of the optic cup, means a neural retina, the anterior 1/5 of the inner layer, they does not differentiate, they just divides into the two parts. So which forms the inner layer of the iris and formation of the ciliary body. And the posterior 4/5 of the inner layer of the optic cup undergoes a cellular proliferation, forming the outer nuclear zone, inner nuclear zone, and the ganglion cell layer. So you just remember, from the inner posterior 4/5, they just divide into 3 zones. So the ganglion cells appears to be the first to differentiate and proliferates rapidly only in the second trimester. And the internal and external limiting membrane forms which the cell ceases to proliferate and begins to differentiate. So these internal and external limiting membrane means there are 10 layers of the retina. So how these retina are developed, how the different layers of the retina from where they are developed. So this is there. So when you will go through the retina layers, you will be knowing that these ganglion cells, internal limiting membrane, external limiting membrane. So these internal and external limiting membrane, these are when the cells stops to proliferate, they begin to differentiate, and retina develops occurs concentrically. So retinal vasculature follows the same concentric pattern of development, and laminations of the neural retina occurs at approximately 8 to 12 weeks of gestation. So there is a Brooks membrane which are composed of different layers beyond the choriocapillaries. So now coming to the vitreous body, behind the lens is a vitreous body. So it is formed from both the mesodermal and ectodermal component. So neural ectoderm cells of the inner optic curve contribute the primary vitreous connective fibers, and mesoderm forms the hyaloid vasculature. So primary vitreous forms a central conical structures that contains the hyaloid vasculature, and it is surrounded by secondary vitreous, which eventually replaces the primary vitreous by the sixth fetal month. And the jonular fibers of the lens also develop at this time. So they are distinct from the primary and secondary vitreous. So you just remember that the vitreous is developed from the both mesoderm and endoderm, and they have the vascular pattern which is primarily replaced by the secondary. The hyaloid vessel supplies the lens in intrauterine life and forms the vascular layer of the inner surface of the retina. So this is important clinically because sometimes the remnant of this hyaloid vascular which is present in the adult lens also as a persistent membrane. So later obliteration and disappear during the fetal life, leaving beyond the hyaloid canal. And the interstitial space of this network later fills the transparent gelatinous substance forming the vitreous body. So which is just the jelly-like substances which is replaced later on, and gradually with so many conditions this jelly-like substances is also replaced or it is changed into the liquid which leads to many pathological conditions. An optic nerve, so it's developed from the optic stalks, which is narrow stalk that connect the optic vesicles with the forebrain, and the stalks initially form the neuroectoderm cells surrounded by the neural crystals. So we have discussed how the optic vesicle is formed. From that the narrow stalk still there, which is called the optic stalk, and from there which is formed from the neuroectoderm cells. So in the 6th week of gestation, the neuroectoderm cells begins to vacuolate and degenerate, providing the space for the axons and ganglion cells of the inner retina. So this you can see the hyaloid artery over here, the nerve fibers. This is a lumen of the optic stalks. So this whole as a optic vesicles, and this is the optic stalk. See, and over here you can see the central retinal artery, retina, and the optic nerve fibers. So ganglion cells of the retina develops axons that converts and exits the optic curve through the optic stalk. And the inner layer of the optic stalk encroaches on the cavity of it until the inner and outer layer fuses and the cavity of the stalk disappear. Then the optic chiasma formed by the partial deconsections of axons of the two optic nerve. Then the hyaloid artery and vessels become the central artery and vein of the retina. So coming to the extraocular muscles, develops from the paraxial and precordial mesoderm and neural crystals. So four recti muscles and superior inferior oblique muscles from the mesenchyme in the region of the eyeball, and starts at the single mass of mesenchyme and later on separates into the distinct muscles. So levator palpebris superiorlis is formed from the last splitting from the mesenchyme that forms the superior rectus muscles, and during the development extraocular muscles become associated with third, fourth, sixth cranial nerves. So orbit, the orbital bones from the mesenchyme that encircles the optic vesicles, medial wall from the lateral nasal process, lateral and inferior wall from the maxillary process, superior wall from the mesenchyme capsules of forebrain, posterior orbit from the bones of base of skull. All the bones of the orbits are membranous except the sphenoid, which is the initially cartilaginous, and ossification begins during the third month of gestation and fusion occurs between 6th and 7th month. So eyelids and glands, so it develops as a fold of surface ectoderm, and eyelids folds grow towards each other and laterally. So 8th week they become united, and 5th month start to separate. The cilia and glandular structures develop, and 7th month the complete separations occurs. As the fold adhere to each other, evolutions of the cilia and glands continue, and the orbicularis oculi muscles also condense in the fold in 12 weeks. So ciliary glands grow out from the ciliary follicles, and tarsus gland, which is a meibomian gland, develop as a column of ectodermal cells from the eyelid margin. Conjunctival sac, it forms in front of the cornea with while eyelids are fuses, and connective tissues and tarsus plate form from the mesenchyme pore of the eyelid. So orbicularis oculi muscles form from the mesenchyme of second pharyngeal arch, which invade the eyelid and supplies by the 7th cranial nerve. So most of these structures are developed from the mesenchyme. And lacrimal glands also, it begins to develop between the 6th and 7th week of gestations and form as a series of ectoderm buds that grow separately from the superior fornix. So in the temporal region of the conjunctiva into the underlying mesenchyme. So we have in the conjunctiva we have superior fornix and inferior fornix. So superiorly, as ectodermal buds, they grow separately, and these buds later unite and form the secretory and multiple duct of glands. So lacrimal glands, either they drain directly or by the duct. After the development of the lateral palpebral superiorlis, gland is divided into two parts by this septum, orbital part and palpebral part. So lacrimal sac and nasolacrimal duct. So this is a drainage of the lacrimal pathway, drainage pathway or lacrimal pathway. So the solid cord at the ectodermal cells between the lateral nasal process and maxillary process of the face. So it is a cord. Cord is canalized to form the nasolacrimal duct, and superior end dilates to form lacrimal sac, and lacrimal duct formed by the cellular proliferation. So these are nothing but it is just the ectodermal derivatives. So some of the abnormalities which we have discussed through this embryology. So coloboma, it is a fissure. Coloboma, which we can start from the lead coloboma, iris coloboma. So this is a choroidal fissure when fails to close forms a coloboma. Iridopupillary membrane may persist instead of being reabsorbed during the formation of anterior chamber. So congenital cataract is the lens becomes opaque during the intrauterine life, like children of mothers who have had germinal measles, that is rubella, between the 4th and 7th week of pregnancy have cataract. So there are different causes of the congenital cataract, which can be the maternal cause or the fetal cause. So any cause that leads to the intrauterine during the intrauterine period or during the pregnancy, then the lens will opacify during the intrauterine life. That is called the congenital cataract. So cataract is any opacification in the lens. Persistent of the hyaloid artery may form a cord or cyst, and microphthalmia, the eye is small and it may result from the intrauterine infections, that is TORCH infections. And anophthalmia is the absence of the eye, usually accompanied by the severe cranial abnormalities. And congenital aphakia is absence of lens, and aniridia is absence of iris due to the mutations of the PAX6 gene. And cyclopia, these are the fusions, single eye, or these are associated with other congenital defect. And blue sclera, it's a thin sclera, and anomalies of pigmentation is albinism. So from this, gradually in every section, when we will start lead, or I will discuss the congenital anomalies of the eyelid again. In cornea, the some of the common which we will encounter. So in the cornea section separately, so we will be discussing in that manner. So till this slide is commonly how the eyeball is developed, and what are the common congenital anomalies. Okay, from here we will be discussing in the another, when I will continue the leads and all. So we have different according to the topic, so we will discuss gradually. So if I will come today, it will not come in your head. So when you just go through the Purana and your embryology, which we have read in in first, then you will know these things, the development. So any queries?